All right, so what you're about to watch is a video I've actually shot before, but I made it for my patients to add to their little exercise video app that we use for them to view at home. But I've been using it so much, and the importance of this I feel is really important, so that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to shoot a video and put it on YouTube so everybody can see it. So what I'm about to show you is basically a floor mobility routine. And the key portion of this is, and the most important part, is to get on the floor. And so I got this idea from, initially from Kelly Starrett. He wrote a book called Built to Move. You can find him at thereadystate.com. I want to give credit to him. He's just an important person in the physical therapy field, and someone who's really kind of taken our field and made it more applicable to, honestly, just the general public and a more active population. So the importance of what I'm about to show you is that when we have patients here at Mission Move who are in their, I would say usually in their 50s, but it can even start earlier than that for some, but 50s, 60s, 70s, and on up, and they're looking to stay as strong and as mobile and just as active as possible. The thing that tends to inhibit them is their mobility, okay? And specifically their hip mobility. So if you don't have good hip mobility, then you're really limited in the amount of range of motion that you can use to do some of your lower extremity exercises. And if you can't go through the full range of motion, then it limits your ability to get strong. And if you're not strong, it limits your ability to do things. So one of the things that Kelly talks about in this book, Built to Move, is one way is to improve hip mobility, or just mobility in general, is to get on the floor. And why I find this to be so important, and just something that I talk to my patients, pretty much every single patient, about, is because doing mobility work or stretching isn't something that most people give themselves time to do, right? And I mean, if someone, and what I tell them, if someone told me, here's a stretching routine for 30 minutes, I wouldn't do it. Heck no. I mean, like, when do you have time to dedicate 30 minutes to stretching or mobility? Not saying that it's not important, that we shouldn't, it's just that people are busy. So the idea of this is, if there is something that you are doing in a chair that you could do on the floor, then do it on the floor. And just the act of getting on the floor is massive. It helps you just move around more. You have to get down on the floor and you have to get back up. It's amazing how many people don't do that. We basically evolved as a society so that we don't ever have to get on the floor if we don't want to. And there's just so many benefits from it. And so a lot of people's hip mobility just comes from that we are in a society basically where we just sit in chairs, right? We sit in a car, we sit in a chair, we have different chairs at home and things like that, and they all pretty much lock you into a position that over time, and it just sneaks up on you, you slowly decrease your hip mobility. So if there's something that you do in a chair that you could do on the floor, then just get on the floor, okay? Now for me, I know I'll do this at least once a week when I do my laundry. So when I'm folding my laundry, then I sit on the floor, have my pile of clothes over here. I'm usually watching some TV or something like that, or something on my computer, and I just basically, fold my laundry. For most people, I would say, most people like to have a little bit of time to watch maybe some TV, maybe you enjoy a news program, maybe you watch Sports Center, something like that. Anytime where you're just sort of like relaxing a little bit. Maybe you are reading, maybe you're on social media on your phone. Those are a lot of things that people tell me they do. Sometimes for people it's like, hey, our family enjoys playing cards or doing puzzles, or sometimes I just like to sit and chat with my spouse or someone else in the family. These are all things that you can do to just get on the floor. So that's kind of the key to this is like, if you're sitting down and you're thinking to yourself, hey, could I be doing this on the floor? Then you need to get on the floor, okay? So what I'm gonna do is just kind of show you multiple positions that you can put yourself in while you're on the floor. And so while you're sitting down, just kind of run through these. So the first one is just cross-legged on the floor, okay? And the idea would be to sit in each of these just a couple minutes. And so you would sit cross-legged this way, then you could sit cross-legged this way, just mixes it up a little bit with your hips, right? So that's the first one, is sitting cross-legged. Second one I tend to go to is just sitting straight out like this, okay? This is a great hamstring stretch. Some people, if you're really tight in your hamstrings, are gonna have a hard time getting into this position or have to use your stomach a lot. Even if you had to sit back a little bit, I'd be okay with that. Or if you're tired, right? Like just sit up against the couch or something like this and have your back supported a little bit. Still better than nothing. From there, you can just go into bringing your one leg up and holding on to it. That allows you to sit forward a little bit more than you'd be able to. Also works with increasing your hip flexion on each side. So I would sit here for a couple minutes, switch legs, sit here for a couple minutes, okay? Then the next one to go into is what we call the 90-90 stretch, which is here. This one's probably the most difficult for most people to get into. And again, if you don't do it perfectly, that's okay, right? Just sort of get into this position. I've found sometimes when I want to read, right? Typically I read before I go to bed, but that also kind of helps me fall asleep a little bit. But if something I really want to read and I don't want to fall asleep, get into this position. It's just uncomfortable enough that you're not going to fall asleep, okay? So switch from side to side, right? Just back and forth. Again, if you can only do it for 30 seconds and then switch, that's fine, okay? The next position I like to go into is actually just sitting on my knees like this. This helps with plantar flexion of the ankle, just keeps the front of your shin mobile and keeps your knees bent. From here, I like to go into actually spending a little bit of time on my toes. This helps with your big toe mobility. And just doing the same sort of thing. It's a little less aggressive than being on your knees with sitting on your heels. So just coming up on the toes. Now there are times where, let's say you need to get some work done. I've done this at home where I just actually put my laptop on a coffee table like this. Again, I'm just sitting cross-legged, sitting with my legs out underneath. You just bring it up there and go ahead and work on the laptop like that. And I find that another good way, or even if you're just writing on a notepad. So there's just times like during a day where I think, I'm gonna have a little brainstorming session. I might as well get on the floor and do it. So one of the key components to this that I think is important is that there's no wrong way to do it, basically. And what I mean by that is I've had patients be like, okay, how many of these positions do I have to go through, all of them, and how long should I be in each of them? It's like, don't worry about it so much. I always think back to like little kids when they get on the floor. Kind of the example I use is, around the holidays, maybe a family get together, we're gonna watch a movie together, the adults sit in the chair, the kids get on the floor. And what do the kids do, right? I mean, they'll sit there for 2.5 hours and they just kind of lean on one elbow, they'll sit like this, they'll lay on their stomach, they'll do all kinds of things. So you'll do the same thing, you'll just naturally shift, right? So don't worry about it so much. It's like, oh, my legs aren't perfectly straight. Well, just keep them like this, right? You might even go into this, you might do this. Just move around. Just being on the floor and being in this position is going to be better than sitting in a chair. And if you can do it once a day, perfect. Try to do it for 20 or 30 minutes is what I would say, right? To get a little bit of benefit out of it. So that's it, right? This seems, the more simple something can be, the better. And this is one of those simple things, right? And so when I look at people and like, how can we help people live a fuller life by keeping their mobility and strength long-term? It's just find some time. You don't have to do it every day. If you forget a day, don't worry about it, but just find time during the week and just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sit on the floor a little bit. And just the act of getting up and down, sitting on the floor will increase your hip mobility. It will help you keep strong. It'll help you stay active. And so hopefully this is something that you all can do. So if there is any questions or anything you'd like to comment on this, I'd be happy to see your comments. Just go ahead and like and subscribe our video. and put any comments below. Thanks for watching, and go ahead and sit on the floor.